For this particular discussion, we're all set to talk in detail about the topic. This is going to be sustainability through smart living, building a greener tomorrow. A very significant and a very important discussion on the day one of Mumbai Geo at the Geo World Convention Center. This is the Smart Home Expo 2025, and for this particular discussion, I would like to invite Sumati Sahgal, VP Home and Distribution, Schneider Electric, Greater India, to please join us on stage. Give it up for Sumati Sahgal, everyone. Come on. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Absolute pleasure to be here talking to all of you. And I was listening to the previous panel discussion, and very interesting, right? We heard Sohani and even Kwaish talking a lot about what sustainability means for homes, what each of the panelists spoke about, how they see that being an integral part of building a better, greener future for all of us. It's my privilege to talk to you about a bit more about it. I represent Schneider, the world's most sustainable company. I'm very proud to talk to you about that. But let's, before we start about what we're doing, right? Let's look at what's happening in the world. Sustainability is not about what we are doing today. It's about what we will leave for the future. It's about ensuring that what consumption, whatever needs we are utilizing, what part of the planet we use today, it is going to leave a better future for tomorrow. But look at the world, right? Enough and more, I would say, bad news that we hear every day. We hear about overpopulated cities, with urbanization leading to more droughts. We had an instance of South Africa literally going into a zero water situation. In our own country, well within a few hundred kilometers, we know of Bangalore facing the same challenge, right? So it's a real challenge that all of us are grappling with. And when that hits us, we suddenly realize that, we need to do something about it. There is a lot of resource depletion that's happening. Everything, whether it is water, whether it is natural resources, there is an urgency and emergency around climate. Today, while we all speak about it, I think the younger generation is far more aware, and they're talking about a lot about it, right? Kids in school today are talking about how there are no more natural resources available. There is a loss of biodiversity. I mean, there is enough and more around insects that which are becoming extinct in our lifetime. There is a lot about birds no longer being there in metro cities, right? All this is a function of the consumption that we're doing, apart from the regular things that we experience in terms of water or food scarcities. But all of this is an alarm for us. It's an alarm to wake up and understand that we need to do something, and we need to do it now. The time is now, because we are in a situation of crisis. It's no longer about what somebody else would do and what each one of us can do. Let's look at what happens when we talk about the greenhouse gases, right? The emissions, the overall emissions in the world are at about 59 gigatons. Not all of this is controllable, and not all of this is harmful. Out of this, nearly 80%, so I would say broadly 76% of this, close to 45 gigatons is CO2 emissions. Within this, all of this we believe may be harmful, but what is the real impact? The impact is 36 gigatons, which is actually coming out due to a process of energy consumption. Let's step back and, okay, so we all know 59 gigatons, but 36 gigatons of CO2 that we need to make an impact on. Break this down onto where it's coming from. A lot of it from non-renewable sources of energy. So coal being the largest contributor, oil, gas, of course. So there's a lot the world's doing around reducing the coal consumption, looking at renewable sources of energies. But on the consumption side, and this is all on the demand generation side, but the consumption side is what we can impact. And that is where buildings impact 37% of this. Globally, this further split into residential and non-residential, and sometimes we believe industries are the biggest component of CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions, but that's really not the reality. The buildings And in that, 22% of it is coming from residential. And therefore, that's an impact that as individuals and as corporates, as designers, as architects, as people who influence buildings can make. In India, this number may be slightly different, and that's the number in India. The impact of industry is much higher. It's closer to 50%. And for residential is lesser. This is about 28% on buildings. But that itself is significant, right? What happens when, how do we impact this? What happens if we don't do anything about it? The world, we all understand that, the commitment that we are all looking at is saying that by 2030, the average temperature impact would be about 1.5 degrees. But if we were not to do anything about this, the actual impact could be in the range of 4 to 6 degrees of the planet getting heated. And the long-term impact of whether it is the ice caps melting, to lands getting submerged, to potable water reducing is all evident and known. But this 4 to 6% could actually be the path to extinction. And that is where it's very relevant to curb this to 1 or 1.5 degrees. Now that's a reason why the whole world is looking at saying, how do we control the heating of the planet and the warming to about 1.5 degrees. Now, look at the track. I mean, it's scary when you kind of try and understand what's happening in the world. 4 gigatons of CO2 saved could make this impact. Now, out of the 59 gigatons of CO2, 46 gigatons of CO2 that the world's talking about, we need to save at least 4 gigatons to be able to get to a 2030 number of 2 degrees. 2 to 2.5 degrees. That is a huge difference. And this needs to get accelerated. Sustainability is not about what we believe somebody else should be doing. It's the impact that we as individuals need to make, as corporates we need to make. And therefore, it's important to look at it from more holistic perspective at each establishment, at each building. About 10 to 15 gigatons, right? These are statistics which are readily available. We see this as by 2030, if we are able to actually save close to 10 gigatons of CO2, will lead to the world goal of achieving 1.5 degrees. That's the global target that we are talking of. Is this 1.5 degrees possible? Looks very difficult, right? 15 gigatons is what we need to save. It's talking about 20% reduction of what the world currently is actually putting it out there, all of us are putting out on the planet. But then, if we were to act now, this is very much possible. How can we all do it? Well, India is at the forefront of this change. We may not be the ones who've been contributors to the world problem, but we are very much the sufferers and we are very much party to the solution. And we need to be part of that. Of course, the Indian government is doing a lot around it. There is a lot more awareness around building green structures. The whole construction industry is looking at greener construction, material being used to be more sustainable. Even in the manufacturing process, I'm sure all of you are looking at how every element that you're using has a more sustainable impact. But what is our approach? As Schneider, what is our approach to decarbonization? And as we decarbonize, we believe that it is going to be digital, which is very, very important. And of course, the energy management as well around it, right? What we see is both the demand side and the supply side. Now, we spoke a lot about the demand side, right? And everybody is aware we are moving to renewable sources of energy, saying how do we reduce coal consumption, how do we look at more sustainable, renewable sources of energy, of course. But at the same time, the supply side needs to get managed as well. Look at this demand side. Now, if we can reduce about 25% if we bring in circularity, we bring in more efficient ways, we can also electrify. And electrification can be a very key pillar because 25% of impact can happen purely by electrification. So digital and electrification both can lead to a more sustainable ecosystem. When we talk about electrification, of course, we are all moving towards EV, we are moving towards better sources, we are looking at better products being used. At Schneider, how we look at it is to see if our entire manufacturing process itself can be more sustainable. We try and use products which have recycled material. So 20% of our material used is actually from recycled plastic. So therefore, a simple thing, like someone earlier spoke about AQI in a home, right, in the previous panel, and how it can make for a healthier living in a more sustainable world. One of the products that we do is an AQI meter for the home. So it indicates in your room what the AQI is. The product itself is made with 20% recycled plastic. So that itself is adding to the whole value, right, at some level. You look at circularity, of course, reuse, that's where it comes in. It's important to measure, monitor, and then save. So today, everybody knows that in homes or in large commercial establishments, we know our consumption, but do we know how to act upon it? There are enough solutions, and I'm sure all of you have gone around the Expo today and will do so tomorrow. You'll realize there are a lot of solutions available. It's important to have a comprehensive solution that will tell the user what their actual consumption is from various sources, whether it could be on grid, could be solar, could be e-vehicle, and from there be able to tell them how to monitor it. And once the user has the power of monitoring and information available, they can actually act upon it. As a home user, I can tell you that there is enough statistics available that tells you that an automated, digitized home saves 20% electricity, right? So this is Bureau of Energy Efficiency that says that 20% energy can be saved. That is a huge impact. But today a home user does not know how to make that. While the intent is there, how do we get everyone from the journey of intent to actual action? And that's the bridge that technology can bring in. That's the bridge that brands with the right solutions can bring in. And which is where the whole designing of a solution needs to have sustainability at the core of it. Look at efficiency, right? If you were to boost efficiency, how do we get to that 1.5 degrees Celsius reduction? Is by ensuring 25% of it can happen through boosting efficiency. A large impact can happen through decarbonizing the energy supply itself. And that's the impact that a lot of utilities are looking at. You will see a lot more, I mean, the government's focusing on solar as a very big opportunity. The intent clearly being not just, while it's positioned as a Muft Yojana, right? Muft electricity Yojana. The intent is not that. The intent is to ensure that we are using a more renewable source of energy, ensuring that users, ultimately we are going towards our sustainability goals. What is the equation of the future? Our equation of the future will be energy decarbonization is digital plus electrical. So electrical, both on the demand and the supply side, but if we digitize this, it will lead to a more sustainable world. At Schneider, our purpose is to ensure that we make the most of our energy and resources, bridging progress and sustainability for all. It's been our mission to be the most sustainable and most efficient company. And we've been recognized as the world's most sustainable company for 2 years in a row. Of course, a lot of accreditation. And we continue to be on this journey, but I believe that this is just the beginning. A lot more that needs to be done by all of us. We are happy to have you all come in, speak to us at the Schneider stall and see what we are doing. Happy to have more detailed conversations with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we have a huge round of applause for her? Sumati, thank you for such a wonderful session. I now request Mr. Nazim Sawant to please join us on stage, Conference Head, Smart Home Expo. Thank you. Now I request Nazim to please felicitate Sumati Sahgal. Thank you. Thank you once again, Sumati.